Julian Sayin doesn't play like a young quarterback, and that poise could be the difference against Miami.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Christmas Eve edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. During today's show, we will discuss a big advantage for the Buckeyes offensive line against Miami, as well as if Ryan Day is going to ask more of his receivers in the Cotton Bowl. But first, one thing we have grown accustomed to when watching Julian Sayin play is how efficient he is on the field, how precise he is with his passes, how poised he is in the pocket. And that poise is one thing that allows him to be more confident with his ability to quickly process what he's seeing on the field, because when you're able to stay cool, calm, and collected, the defense can do a lot of different things to try to make you trip over yourself. But Sayin rarely does that. Well, there's a different challenge for Julian Sayin in the Buckeyes offense this upcoming week when they step on the field on New Year's Eve, because they're going to have a new guy starting at right guard. While that has been a change that we have been calling for months, it is still a change coming in a win-or-go-home situation. And nobody wants Ohio State to lose. The players, the coaches, nobody there wants Ohio State to lose. I know you as a fan don't want Ohio State to lose, but you have to realize the reality of the situation is that when you have a new guy starting, the opponent is going to try to crack what could be a hole right there for Ohio State. They're going to try to penetrate that area to try to get into the backfield because they know this guy is a new starter. Nobody knows truly how Gabe Vincent or maybe Josh Padilla are going to play as rotating guards. Maybe rotating with him is the best option, but you truly have no idea how a guy could play when he hasn't played 60 to 70 snaps in his Buckeye career. We all believe he's going to be fine. We think he's going to be fine, but you don't have film to back that on. So Sayin trying to stay poised is great. He's going to need to be poised no matter what. Even if Tiger was playing, he's going to have to stay poised. But it's a different animal when you have a defensive line like Miami, a front like they have, that can get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They made things really hard for Marcel Reed this past weekend, where Marcel Reed was not the quarterback that a lot of A&M fans thought he was going to be in the game against Miami, because Miami's front is good. I mean, there was a time this year that Miami was one of those teams that people believed was going to win a national championship. I mean, many of us around here weren't saying that. We were still believing in Ohio State. But the reality is that is still a thing that many people were saying Miami is going to win a national championship. And a lot of it wasn't only because of Malachi Tony and Mark Fletcher and maybe Carson Beck is good enough to get them there. A lot of it was because of their defense and how good that unit is. They're going to try their best to get pressure on Sayin. But his ability to stay poised no matter what is going to be huge. He's going to have to keep that same energy when Miami is on the field with the Buckeyes. And here's what Reuben Bain Jr., who is a phenomenal player, second on the team in sacks this year with 7.5 sacks. He also has 11.5 tackles for loss, which is third on the team for the Hurricanes. Here's what he had to say about Julian Sayin, quote, "For his age, he's very knowledgeable of the game. He's got the mindset to carry him very far. He's a real smart young guy. Like, as a sophomore, you wouldn't expect nobody to have the mindset and skill set that he does. But he does. And he's going out and playing just as if he was a fifth or fourth year guy." And end quote. And he's correct. A lot of the things that Sayin is doing right now, you would think a guy that's in his fourth or fifth year would just be scratching the surface of being able to accomplish. But he's been doing it since Jump Street. If you look at the Texas game, and this is one of the best stats to kind of tell me about Sayin's debut as QB1 in Columbus, Sayin was 13 to 20, threw for less than 150 passing yards. He did throw one touchdown that was to Carnell Tate. But even in that game, what we saw, that 13 to 20 should have been 16 to 20. I don't care about the yards. I don't even care if we threw another touchdown in that game. As far as what we got, what we went and trying to compare what should have happened. There were 3 drops in that game. I believe they were all in the first half. 2 by Jeremiah Smith, 1 by Max Clare. All 3 drops hit the receivers in both hands. So you're thinking about a guy going up against Texas, number 1 team in the country. They got NFL dudes all over the field, and he's going out there, and he isn't really fazed by anything at all. He trusted his preparation. He trusted his coaches. Yes, Ryan Day admitted after the game that him and Hartline could have put more on Sayin's plate, but the mindset was simply to find a way to win. Well, that's what he's been doing. Well, when he's finding a way to win, you see early on, he's quickly playing like a veteran. And he's not even 20 years old. That's so rare. Well, while Miami knows that, Miami's trying to find out a way to do exactly what Indiana did. Get in the backfield, wreak havoc, have a relentless pursuit that Ohio State's offensive line is struggling to slow down. That's their mission. And I'm not mad at Reuben Bain. Actually, I'm glad that he's acknowledging the fact that Sayin is really, really good. While you're acknowledging that, Ohio State needs to find a way to not allow the new right guard situation to be a problem that is so big of a problem that Sayin struggles to stay on his feet in the game. Homie should not have any rubber pellets on his jersey at all. Nothing. There should be nothing on his jersey that shows the sign of him going on the ground at all or being touched by a hurricane at all. That shouldn't happen. Why? Because all 5 guys up front, the tight ends that are staying in the block and the running backs, maybe receiver 2, whoever the player is, they must keep him up. You must keep a clean pocket. You must raise your own level of play because if you don't, the season could be over. Now, I do think there's a true scenario that if Miami does have a situation where they get pressure on Sayin like the Hoosiers did in the Big Ten title game, there's a scenario that Ohio State still wins the game by at least a touchdown. I'm just realistically thinking that because I don't know if Ohio State would have, if they kept Sayin upright, I don't know if they would have won by a touchdown. If they found a way to win, it probably would have been by 3 points. But Ohio State's better than Miami. I know Miami fans or Hurricane fans flying in and trying to get some more Buckeye news right now. They're like, better than Miami? What are you talking about? In Miami, yes, Miami is good. Ohio State is just different. Ohio State's been on a different path, on a different playing level all season long. And there's nothing about me that thinks that Sam will not be poised in this game while he's been getting high praise from a very talented offensive or defensive lineman. There's nothing about me that thinks that Sam will fall to the pressure of the Hurricanes and fall to the stage, which is Jerry's world. And I don't know about you. If you have a little doubt in Sayin's ability to get it done in this game, let me know in the YouTube comment section on this video or leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify and let us know there as well. Because I'm very curious about if you are a little nervous about Ohio State's offensive line with Sayin's ability to run the offense against Miami. Because the last time we saw Ohio State play, it wasn't their best game at all. It was a game where they were good enough to beat a team, but on that day, or just in general, Indiana showed with the Ohio State's poor coaching at times, Indiana's better. And you may get a little nervous thinking, well, we know the talent on the team, but why in the world was that talent not able to overcome an Indiana team that even lost one of their top receivers? Ohio State's offensive line had issues that day. It wasn't always on Tegra. We could point the finger at Tegra. Yes, he got benched. It wasn't always on Tegra. The unit did not have their best game, their best day, and we saw Ohio State lose. If they have a better day against Miami, I had no doubt in my mind that Ohio State will win the game. Speaking of having a better day, the Buckeyes wide receivers might be asked to do a little bit more because their head coach is now the offensive play caller in the college football playoff. Should they be asked to do more? I'll answer that question next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit fanduel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and for making this show your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our brand new Everydayer Club. You can get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Buckeyes compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You'll get an invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. You'll get special all-access episodes of Locked On Buckeyes and one-on-one texting. Go to lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Ohio State's quarterback situation has been great all season. Julian Sayin was a Heisman finalist for a reason. I don't 100% believe that he should have received the fifth most first-place votes for the Heisman Trophy, but I don't have my own 2 cents in there as far as the voting, and so the voters got it wrong. The public, the national media, has got a lot of things wrong as well, and I think some of them were expecting more from Ohio State's receivers in the collective group of 3 or 4 or 5 of them this year, but you got so many receptions by Jeremiah Smith. You got so many big plays by Carnell, Tate, that, and this wasn't really called upon as much as you would think he would have been with him being a captain, but also Ohio State used a lot of 13 to 14 personnel, which didn't allow Tate, Smith, and Ennis to be on the field as much as I think they should have been, which causes me to think, or pauses my mindset and my thought process while thinking about this game, and it makes me wonder if Ryan Day is going to put more on his receivers. Because like I mentioned earlier, I would encourage everybody right now to look back at 3 games. Look back at the game against Clemson in 2020. Look back at the game against Georgia in 2022. Both of those are playoff games. And then look back at the Nebraska game a year ago after the Oregon loss, where Ohio State came off of an off week, and you saw an offense and a defense that, well, I don't like talking about that game because it was just not the kind of game that you think you would have. But I would encourage you to look at those 3 games. Because while 2 of them, the Buckeyes had a month off, and 2020 was the only true realistic one because the Buckeyes played in the Big Ten title game in 2020. They did not in 2022. So the time off there is the most realistic in 2020. Go back and look at those games. You're going to see in 2024, the game against Nebraska, a game where the offense really wasn't hitting on all cylinders. Was it partly because of Nebraska, or was it Ohio State? I think firmly Ohio State got in their own way. Also, when you look at 2020 and 2022, Ryan Day's calling plays, and you saw what the receivers did in those games when Ryan Day was calling the shots. And in those games, Ryan Day firmly puts a lot on his receivers. And it's not only in the receiving game or the passing game. They must be able to block at an elite level. And we detailed it, and I think the big difference between the 2022 game against Georgia and the 2020 game against Clemson is in the run area, in the run game. If you look at 2019 against Clemson, you could even say that game as well, where Ohio State lost. What was the big difference? Sometimes J.K. Dobbins wasn't able to punch it into the end zone in the red zone. I think there were 2 or 3 drives in the first half of that game. This was before the targeting call, before Sunshine ran down the left sideline for a touchdown. Before that, the Buckeyes had 2 or 3 drives down in the red zone where they didn't punch it in. J.K. Dobbins, a 2,000-yard rusher that year, I know one time he got tripped up. One time I think he slipped in the route and didn't catch the ball, but they weren't able to punch it in. In those games, you'll see the run blocking by the receivers is huge. It's big, and absolutely Ryan Day is going to ask more of his receivers because, one, they're going to be on the field a whole lot more, but number 2, and more importantly, Bo Jackson is going to get the ball in areas and in ways that he is going to be more comfortable, and he should be more successful. Well, if he's going to get the ball in ways that he can be more successful, what has to happen with the guys on the outside? They must block at an elite level. Every single time they're on the field, they must block at an elite level. And I don't want to say that I'm putting pressure in the wrong spots because Brian Hartline was clear about his the one thing he preached, or one of the things he preached in practice, is that to get on the field, you must block as receiver. Now, sometimes you can not block at an elite level, do it consistently, and still play on the field. I mean, if you're just that good of a receiver, well, maybe you won't be on the field as often. I don't know, but he's going to ask more of him, and he should. If Hartline was still calling the plays, he should do the same thing, because you need to ask more, not only of them, but of everybody. Lay it all on the line. You can't act like there's another game. But Ryan Day's playing for the long game. But even in the game against in the Big Ten title, it was very clear that there were times that Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate should have been on the field, but they weren't. But Ryan Day was like, "Oh, well, they're still hurt, and so we can't play them as much as we want to because, well, they're not fully healthy." And so while winning Ryan Day's telling you in real time what the importance is of him, what he truly values as the most important thing in this season. It wasn't the Michigan game where he knew, yeah, we could get up on this team, we could beat this team, get up pretty comfortably and take our stars out. In the Big Ten title game, where if you keep them on the field, you win the game. What happens? Well, you won the game, and maybe they are not as healthy as they would have been because they played a few more snaps. Ryan Day clearly said, like, yeah, we would love to play them more, but they're not fully healthy. So that's why the rotation was the way that it was. Well, you can't utilize that now. Healthy or not, nobody cares. You got to do what you got to do to win the game. And you know who's not healthy? Players on Miami. The players on Miami aren't fully healthy either. It's just games we played on December 31st, 2025. The season started, I believe, for both of these teams, Labor Day weekend. So you think about the end of August until now, what are you finding? Man, this is a lot. There's a lot going on with these players, with these guys, that it's a grind. Not just a physical grind, it's a mental grind. You know who else it's a grind for? The coaches. I mean, if I'm Ryan Day, I think about, man, this is a grind that's not normal. You start the season, you had a lot of success, you got a lot of talent. You're trying to figure out what buttons to push, make things get a little bit better. Go throughout the season. You really don't have many major injuries. Yeah, Tegra got hurt a little bit later in the year. And then Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, they were both banged up a little bit. Carnell Tate's injury still seemed a little odd because Homie went through warm-ups. He got to the sideline in Ross-Ade Stadium, and then all of a sudden they took his helmet, and it was one of the oddest injuries that you have ever seen because Homie wasn't hurt when he got there. Something happened in warm-ups, and he was not only hurt, he missed a few games. I mean, it's just as odd as Anthony Richardson hurting his eye while warming up at the resistance band. I only say it's odd because you don't normally hear it. Yes, we have all probably seen videos on the social media apps that we have where people are working out. They have exercise bands and they pop them off of whatever. They snap them off of whatever device they're on, and that stuff stings, man. That stuff hurts. I've never done it, so I don't know it by firsthand experience, but I do know it by people I've been watching on the various videos that are going around social media. That stuff hurts. It 100% hurts. And so I don't know what Ryan Day had to deal with that injury. I don't know what else Ryan Day had to go through with that injury or with this season. I do know there was some public stuff with Legend Bay, some recruitment and signing with Tennessee, and then getting out of the agreement to signing with Ohio State. There was a Chris Henry Jr. situation. There is now Hartline leaving. There was the early signing period where you still had some guys flip from Ohio State to go play football elsewhere. And it was just a few of the things Ryan Day had to deal with. I'm sure there were some personal things he had to deal with his son, RJ, playing football and being recruited at the same time. He has multiple kids. He is married. That's a whole nother dynamic where you're not home as much as you might want to be home. So you still got to make sure that you're present when you are home. Trust me, there's a lot going on in Ryan Day's head, which adds to why right now that stuff cannot be at the forefront of his mind. Yeah, he's gone through a lot. He's now taking back play calling duties, and I think he's the right man for the job. I know I said previously that the hire, whoever the new OC is going to be, should be the offensive play caller. I still believe that. If Ryan Day has to, cool. I still would prefer somebody else doing that thing. I wouldn't be surprised if Tyler Bowen was promoted to OC and Keenan Bailey was now the receivers coach. That wouldn't shock me at all. It may be a little bit more cost efficient. Not saying the Buckeyes are really hurting for money, but I think a tight ends coach is cheaper than a receivers coach if you're hiring one that's not in the program. So, do what you got to do. Figure it out all along the way, and make sure that when you put the pressure on the receivers to do more, it's mainly going to be in the run game blocking. It's not going to be in the receiving game. Them dudes are doing just fine. I think Ennis will get on the field more. I would not be shocked if Mylan Graham was on the field a little bit more. I don't know. It still has not been reported on if Bryson Rodgers will be with the team throughout the CFP, because if he is 100%, he's too good to not be on the field if you're playing 4 or 5 wide receivers at one time. I would also be a big fan of Ohio State using 5 wide receivers at one time, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I do know there is something that's going to happen on the field in the Cotton Bowl that provides the Buckeyes offensive line a big advantage. We'll discuss that next. I'm sure when some of you heard me discuss earlier in the show with the rundown for the day, discussing a big advantage for the Buckeyes offensive line, literally a day after we discussed the a big mystery for the Buckeyes offensive line. Some of you may have been like, Jay, have you lost your mind? Are you really out here trying to tell me that there is a big advantage for the Buckeyes offensive line when what we talked about early in the show was a big reason why there is a big mystery for the Buckeyes offensive line? It's like, dude, are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? No, I haven't lost it yet. I haven't lost it yet. I'm not going to say it will not be lost at some point, but I haven't lost it yet. One thing that will be happening is getting this show back on its regular schedule. I know that throughout the month of December, life has been a lot busier than normal. So the shows have not been coming out at their normal times. We'll get back to, when things slow down, get back to the show coming out on YouTube and on the audio podcast apps at the normal time. Speaking of the word normal, that's very important for this part of the show, because Ohio State's offensive line right now has some things that can be normal for some players. Let's go back to last year and think about what happened with the Buckeyes offensive line. Josh Simmons goes down in the Oregon game. Zen Mahalski, who was his backup, also goes down. You have to move Donovan Jackson from left guard to left tackle, a position that he has never played before. You end up also having to move, when Seth McLaughlin goes down, Carson Hinsman, who was then the left guard to replace Jackson, who had bumped out to left tackle. Carson Hinsman bumps over to his right, his former starting spot, to play center, and comes Luke Montgomery. You have Austin Servo, who's already right there starting, and then now you have Taylor Shabola. You literally have guys that are faces but they're in new places, and they did a great job in the CFP. Now, some of those guys are still on the team. Some of those guys are going to play against Miami. The guys that are still on the team, Tegra still here, Austin Servo, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman. I believe those were the 4 that I missed. And so those 4 guys are still there. 3 of the 4 are going to play. So while there is a big mystery at right guard and what you're going to get from that position, where you're either going to rotate 2 guys or you're going to play 1 guy the entire time, you're not really sure how those 2 things are going to go on the field. You do know that Hinsman, Montgomery, and Serveld provide a massive advantage with their experience in the CFP last year. And it was just a CFP. They were phenomenal from the first round game to the quarterfinal game to the semifinal game to the Natty. They were phenomenal up front and only got stronger the longer they played. Luke Montgomery, to me, is working himself up to being a day 2 pick of the NFL draft. Whenever he decides to go out, I know it's a positional thing. So, I know that guard, he doesn't get drafted higher than tackle, but I do think there is a realistic opportunity for Luke Montgomery to move up the draft boards. Austin Serveld, I know he's been a pretty good tackle this year. I don't see him being a tackle in the NFL. But if you, once again, show that you have positional versatility and you can play outside and inside in the CFP and do it at a high level, that's a way for you to raise your draft stock. And maybe there's a team out there that's going to look at Austin Servo's film from when he was playing guard or when he was playing tackle and saying, oh, man, we got to keep this guy right here. We got to do whatever we got to do to make sure that he stays at the position that is best for us. That's huge. Also, the fact that they rotated, so they know for Gabe Van Sickle, who's I am going to assume that Gabe Van Sickle is going to start. Until they say otherwise, I am 100% going to believe that Van Sickle is not only going to start, he's the best option for right guard throughout the entire game. But you got to realize that, one, the guys there have experience doing this before. Two, a few of them rotated. And when you've rotated in the playoff and it's for win or go home situations, you can use that experience to help the new guys that are trying to do what you did a year ago. Rotate at guard and win the national championship. That's what they're trying to do. So I know that Miami is really, really talented. And one thing I don't want to gloss over that I hadn't really hit yet, Reuben Bain is the name. He is second on the team in sacks at 7.5. Ahkeem Mesidor is first on the team for Miami in sacks at 8.5. They combined for 16 sacks and 25 tackles for loss. Ohio State's offensive line knows that. You want to add in Keontae Scott's 13 tackles for loss as well. He has 5 sacks. Those are a lot of guys that do a lot of damage in the backfield. Well, when you acknowledge what they do well and how they may be able to pull out some bags, some tools in their bag to wreak havoc and have a relentless pursuit of the quarterback, one thing that this team also has is the experience in the game time, not only experience playing in the game, but the travel is different as well. There's so many different things in the CFP. I mean, literally having 4 players speak behind the microphone at one time, back to back, while Ryan Day is doing that there. The CFP media availability is different. The Cotton Bowl is going to ask certain things, but this is mainly a CFP controlled event. And so they're going to do certain things as well. The media situation in Dallas is going to be different. I believe the Fiesta Bowl would be the next game Ohio State would go to out there in Arizona. That's going to be different. The travel is going to be different. But knowing that what it's like to bounce back and forth, got this game here, got this game there, those are things that the experienced offensive lineman can help the new guys that are going to be rotating with over the next few weeks. You're going to go from Dallas to Arizona to Miami. That's a lot of travel. That's an amount of travel that most human beings don't do in that short amount of time. I used to travel, I'm going to say travel a lot, but I used to hop on airplanes, especially when I went to school in Florida, quite a bit. My first year in school, I don't believe I had a car. I know I didn't have one my first semester. I forget if I had one my second semester. But I don't believe I had a car the first year first semester I didn't. I know when I got a job my second semester, I ended up getting a car. But I didn't have a car. And when I did have a car, I would fly home on break. So Thanksgiving, I would fly home. Christmas, I would fly home. Spring break, as out as this was in Florida, I love being in Florida, man. The weather was so amazing, but I would still fly home. I would fly home, and so I would fly, go from Tampa to Indianapolis, back to Tampa, a few times a year. That level of travel was nothing like what these guys were enduring. Also, I wasn't going through crazy extensive workouts that are testing your body or really in recovery mode. I wasn't having practice that was very, very physical and a bloody Tuesday or Wednesday mindset or approach. I wasn't doing those things. No, I wasn't playing sports. I remember down there in Florida a few times we played flag football, just some guys having some fun. I know for sure. We played tackle football with no pads. Man, it was fun to be young and be my 18, 19, 20-year-old self. I am not playing tackle football at my age. I am 37 years old. I have no desire to go out on any open field and go out there and play football and tackle football at all. No. I have no desire to even try to. I have no desire to even try to play semi-pro football or get to the point where, I can play football again. No. Absolutely not. No desire at all. But these guys do. So when I was traveling, I was just getting to the airport, hopping on the plane and going. I was not having to deal with the luggage I'm bringing or having to think about what's coming up, having to study some film. No, I would get there, have my headphones, play a game or two every now and then fall asleep, get to where I needed to go, and that was it. Not for these athletes. Not for them at all. Their travel's different. They're trying to win a national championship. And they can help Van Sickle and Padilla in this moment because they've been there. They've done that, and they know what it takes and what Ryan Day is going to ask of them over the next few weeks as Ohio State is striving and attacking another national championship. Thank you all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes and for making this show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Buckeyes so you get all the latest episodes. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through lockedonbuckeyes.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on Christmas Eve. We'll see you next time.